Good morning, guys. So today we're going to go through the second chapter of One Crazy Summer. Um, so it's kind of good to remember and to remind yourself that this is a different time. So we've grown up in a time where everyone is equal, and whenever you go into a classroom, you see people from all different ethnicities, nationalities. Like, it's not only one cluster of people in one side or another cluster on another side. It's always been, for us at least, that we're integrated. Like, everyone is equal and everybody has the opportunity to grow and get better. In this era the book was the setting is in, it's a little bit different, and you're gonna see like some subtleties that you're like, and I hope you're thinking about them. So we're gonna read chapter 2 today, Golden Gate Bridge. I glanced at my Timex. Among the three of us, I was the only one responsible enough to keep and wear a wristwatch. Vanessa let a girl see hers and never got it back. Fern was still learning to tell time, so I kept hers in my drawer until she was ready to wear it. Sorry, guys. 6.5 hours passed since we'd hugged Big Ma and kissed Pa at John F. Kennedy Airport. The clouds had made peace with the Boeing 727. It was safe to breathe. I stretched as far as my legs could go. With these long legs, I'm taken for 12 or 13, even a little older. No one ever guesses I'm 11 going on 12 on my first try. More than my long legs, I'm sure it's my plain face that throws them off. Not plain as in homely plain, but even plain, steady. I'm 9 or 7, and given the squealing or oohing like Manetta and Fern, I just let my plain face and my plain words speak for me. That way no one ever says hot to me. They know exactly what I mean. We were long gone from thick and white clouds, the plane steady climbing down. The intercom crackled, and the pilot made an announcement about the descent and altitude, and that we were landing in 10 minutes. I let all that pass by until he said, "All your left as we circle the bay, at your left as we circle the bay is the Golden Gate Bridge." It was now a liar. A stone-faced liar. I wanted to squeal and ooh like a 7-old meaning Tinkerbell. I had read all about the Golden Gate Bridge in class, the California Gold Rush, the Chinese immigrants building the railroads connecting east and west. It wasn't every day you saw live pictures of what you read about in your textbooks. I wanted to look down from above the world and see the Golden Gate Bridge. Being stuck in the middle seat, I was mad at myself. Of the three of us, I was the first to board the 727. Why hadn't I taken the window seat when I had my chance? Instead of squeal I knew wouldn't come out of me in the first place, I sighed. No use crying about it now. The truth was, one pout from either Vanetta and Fern, and I would have given up my window seat. This was the only way it could be. Vanetta and Fern on either side of me, and between them. 6.5 hours was too long a time to have Vanetta and Fern strapped side by side, picking at each other. We would have been the grand Negro spectacle that Big Ma scolded us against becoming. When we were back in Brooklyn, still, the Golden Gate Bridge was getting away from me. I figured at least one of us should see it, and that should be the one who read about it in class. Look, Vanetta, look down at the bridge. Vanetta stayed tight to her stubborn curl, her chin in her lap. I'm not looking. I turned to my right and got a mouthful of hair and berets. Fern had leaned over her aisle seat. I want to see. Make her switch. To Fern, the Golden Gate Bridge sounded like a Sleeping Beauty's castle. She halfway believed in things not true and didn't know where fairy tales ended. No one's spoiling it for her. She'd figured things out soon enough. Fern was wiggling out of her seat belt and climbing on me to get a glimpse. This was how it was at home. Why should 1,000 feet up in the air make a difference? Sit back, Fern, I said in a plain, firm voice. We're getting ready to land. She pouted. but sat back. I tightened her seat belt. Vanetta felt face stayed in her lap. This was just pitiful. Go look down, Vanetta, I said, before you miss it. Vanetta refused to pry her chin from her lap. She stuck her thumb back into her mouth and closed her eyes. I wasn't worried about Vanetta. Once again, we got onto the ground. She'd be her showy self again, and this fraidy cat episode would have been long faded. As we continued to circle the bay above the Golden Gate Bridge, I felt like I was being teased for a simple gate bridge. I felt like I was felt like I was being teased for a simple act of wanting. Each time the plane curved around, I knew in my heart it would be my last chance, and the bridge was singing, "Na na 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 na, you can see me." Now I had to see the bridge. How many times would I be this high up in the sight of a spectacular as the Golden Gate Bridge, right underneath me? I loosened my seatbelt, lifted myself, and leaped over Vanetta's head and shoulders and got a look at the oval window. I pressed against Vanetta just a little, not enough to cause a stir, but Vanetta and Fern, who were now angry, both hollered, "Delphine!" as loud as it could. Heads turned her way. The stewardess rushed a row. "Sit in your seat, missy," she scolded me. "We're getting ready to land." Even though there were only eight Negroes on board, counting my sisters and me, I had managed to disgrace the entire Negro race. Judging by the head shaking and the tis-tis going around us, I shifted behind into my seat and tightened my seatbelt, but not before I had seen orange steel poking through the thick ground clouds below smog. There was no time to savor my victory or feel shame. The plane went roaring down further and further. Vanetta held to my left arm, and Fern, with Miss Patty Cake, grabbed my right. I dug into the armrest and prayed the pilot had done this before. The plane bounced off the ground, and as soon as we hit land, it kept bouncing and surging forward until the bouncing soothed out, and we were rolling against the ground, nice and steady. I took a deep breath so I'd sound like myself when I started telling Vanetta and Fern what to do. The main thing was that we were on the ground. We were in Oakland. So remember when we talk about foreshadowing, I want a good reader always foreshadows. So in your head, I want you to think, what is coming up? So we know that Vanetta, Fern, and Delphine are going to see their mother. They haven't seen in a really long time. And this was kind of their dad's idea to send them because they felt like they needed to know who their mom was. And it was against the wisdom of their grandmother. Their grandma, Big Ma, was like, no way, no how they should be going. If Cecile, their mom, wants to get to know them, she should be coming over here to New York. So think to yourself what you think we're going to see in the next few chapters. And actually, let me see how this is. I might. Yeah, we'll keep reading. Secret Agent Mother, because this is a chapter we get to see. Well, we get the first sights of Cecile. The Negro lady with the snappy oval bag didn't give us a glance as she click-clacked on by. That was fine with me, although I tell Big Ma otherwise, if she asked, just to keep her from worrying. And I make it show and simple. I only got caught if I tried to spin too much straw. With both feet safely on the ground, Vanetta became her old self, with the face shining and searching. What do we call her? I'd gone over this with Vanetta and Fern many times. I told them long before Papa said we were going to meet her. I told them while we packed our suitcase. Her name is Cecile. That's what you call her. When people ask who she is, you say she is our mother. Mother is a statement of fact. Cecile Johnson gave birth to us. We came out of Cecile Johnson. In an animal kingdom, that makes her our mother. Every mammal on Earth, planet Earth, has a mother, dead or alive. Ran off or stayed put. Cecile Johnson, mammal birth giver alive, and abandoner, is our mother, a statement of fact. Even in the song we sing when we miss having a mother and not being a mother, period, we sing about mother. Mother gotta go, la la la, never mommy, mama, mama, ma. Mommy gets up to give you a glass of water in the middle of the night. Mom invites your friends inside it's when it's raining. Mama burns your ears with hot comb to make your hair look pretty for class picture day. Ma is sore and worn out of wringing out your wet clothes and hanging them to dry. Ma needs peace and quiet at the end of the day. We don't have one of those. We have a statement of fact. So this is very telling of how Delphine feels. She's saying, okay, so a mom and a mother are completely different. So Cecile's a statement of fact. She's our mother because she gave birth to us, but a mother is much more than just giving birth. She says mom is who gets up and gives you a glass of water in the middle of the night. She's the one who invites your friends inside when it's raining. She's the one who makes your hair in picture day. She's the one that washes your clothes every day. So she's saying there's a big difference. And so Delphine understands that. But the other two, Annette and Fern, they're much younger. So it's interesting to see how the dynamics between daughters are different for Cecile. Bonetta, Fern, and I stood to the young red-headed stewardess assigned to watch us until Cecile came forward. The stewardess reread the slip of paper in her hand, then eyed the big clock mounted on the arrival and departure board. And if she had someplace else to be, she could have left me alone with my sisters. I certainly didn't need her. A man in a navy overall swept garbage off the floor a few feet away from us. He went about his job with no expression, sweeping cigarette packs and gum wrappers into a dustpan that he emptied into a larger can. If I were him, picking up after people who carelessly drop stuff on the ground, I'd be nothing but angry. They call it littering when you carelessly drop things. They call the careless folks who drop things by a cute name, litterbug. There's nothing cute about dropping things carelessly. Dropping garbage and having puppies shouldn't be called the same thing, litter. I had a mind to write Miss Webster about that. Puppies don't deserve to be called litter, like they had been dropped carelessly like garbage. And people who litter shouldn't be given cute names for what they do. At least the mother of the litter sticks around and nurses the pups, no matter how sharp her teeth are. Merriam-Webster was falling down on the job. How could she have gotten this wrong? Vanetta asked me again, not because she was anxious to meet Cecile. Vanetta asked me again so she could have her routine rehearsed in her head, her curtsy smile, and leaving Fern and me to stand around like dumb dodos. She was practicing her role as a cute, bouncy pup in the litter, and asked again, Delphine, what do we call her? A large white woman came and stood before us, clapping her hands like they were displaying the Bronx suit. Oh my, what adorable dolls you are. My. She warbled like an opera singer. Her face was moonful and jelly soft. Her cheeks and jaws framed by white whiskers. And this is like amazing imagery. You can see this person. So her face was moonful and jelly soft. So she's a chubsters. Her cheeks in framed by white whiskers. She's chubby, and then she has like a mustache or a beard kind of going on. So you can imagine that in your head. So a good writer always has imagery and has the reader be able to imagine things. And so this is a good example of imagery. So when I talk about like your writing pieces, it shouldn't just be like the bare bones. Add details so that the reader understands what you're trying to say or who you're trying to depict. So for the substitute writer, I should have been able to see that substitute standing right in front of me in my brain. And this author does a really good job, and you'll see more of it. Where the descriptions, you're like, oh, I can see that person, or I can see that thing. We said nothing, and so well behaved. Vanetta perked up a pretty and out-behaved us. I did as Big Mom told me to do, as many talks on how to act around white people. I said thank you, but I didn't add the ma'am for the whole thank you, ma'am. I've never heard anyone else say it in Brooklyn, only in old movies and TV. And when we drove down Alabama, people said yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, in Alabama all the time. The old word was perfectly fine for Big Mom. It just wasn't fine for me. The lady opened the pocketbook, took out a red leather change purse, and scooted coins around, searching for the right amount of adorable, well-behaved colored dolls. Big Mom would have thought that was grand, but Papa wouldn't have liked it 1 cent. Now it wasn't time to do what Papa had told me. See after my sisters. We're not allowed to take money from strangers, I said, this polite enough to suit Big Mom, but strong enough to suit Papa. The redhead stewardess was appalled by my uppity type behavior. Don't you know when someone is being nice to you? I put on a dumb dodo face to fake not knowing what she meant. What was the sense of making the stewardess stand ground over us to refuse to protect us from strangers? She thought it was all right to have a large white woman gawk at us, talk to us, and buy our attention. We might as well have stood by ourselves. I didn't have to shift my eyes to see a mile-long pounce on Vanetta and Fern. I didn't care. We weren't taking nothing from no strangers. The lady was all smiles and squeals. Her face shook with laughter. Oh, and so cute. She put all the nickels in Fern's hand and pinched her cheek faster than I could do anything about it, and was gone, as big as she was. Vanetta grabbed Fern's hand, forced it open, and took her nickel, leaving our 2 coins in Fern's palms. No use in telling them to hand the money over. They were already dreaming of penny candy. I let them keep their nickels and mine. The stewardess re-examined the slip of paper. She shifted from one leg to the other. Both my sisters and me and her high heels were bothering her. I looked around the crowd of people pacing and waiting. Papa didn't keep any pictures of seals, but I had sense of her. Fussy flashes had always come around and went. But I knew she was big and tall, and her she colored. Like me, I knew at least had that right. Then something made me look over to my left, at a figure, standing by a cigarette machine. She moved, then moved back, maybe deciding whether to come to us or not. I told the stewardess before the figure could slip out of the airport. That's her. Fern and Vanetta were excited and scared. They squeezed my hands tight. I could see the thoughts of Vanetta had been reciting poetry, tap dancing, curtsying, vanished. She squeezed my hand harder than Fern did. The stewardess marched us on over in the figure. Once we were there, face to face, the stewardess stopped in her tracks and made herself a barrier between the stranger woman and us. The same stewardess who left the large white woman gawk at us, pressed money into Fern's hands, wasn't so quick to hand us over to the woman I said was our mother. I wanted to be mad, but I couldn't say I blamed her entirely. It could have been the way the woman was dressed. Big black shade, scarf tied around her head. Over the scarf, a big hat tilted down. The kind Pop wore with the suit, a pair of man's pants. Fern clung to me. Cecile looked more like a secret agent than her mother, but I knew she was Cecile. I knew she was our mother. Are you, the stewardess unfurled in a crumpled slip of paper, Cecile Johnson? She paused heavily between the first and last names. Are you these colored girls' mama? Cecile looked at us and the stewardess. I'm Cecile Johnson's. These, she motioned to us, are mine. That was all the stewardess needed to hear. She dropped the slip of paper on the floor, handed us over, and fled away with her wobbly high heels. Cecile didn't bother to grab any of our bags. She said, come on. Took 2 white steps and we came. The gap between Cecile and us spread wider and wider. Vanetta sped up, but was annoyed that she had to. Fern could only go so fast, with her bag in one hand and Miss Patty Cake on the other, and I wasn't going anywhere without Vanetta and Fern, so I slowed down. Cecile finally turned as she got the glass door and looked to see where we were. When we caught up, she said, you all have to move it if we're going to be with me. Fern needs help, I told her. Then Fern said, I do not, said Vanetta, and Vanetta said, I need help. Cecile's face had no expression. She swooped down, grabbed Fern's bag, handled, and said, y'all keep up. She started walking the same wide steps as before. I took Fern's hand and we followed. The gap wasn't as wide as we had first started out, but there was still a distance between Cecile, my sisters, and me. Mobs easily threaded through around us. You couldn't see we were together. There was something uncommon about Cecile. Eyes gloomed onto her. tall, dark brown woman in a man's pants, whose face was half hidden by a scarf, hat, and big, dark shades. She was like a color movie star, tall, mysterious, and on the run. Mata Hari in the airport, except there wasn't any cameras or spies following the colored broad-shouldered Mata Hari. Only 3 girls trailing her from the slight distance. We followed her outside where green and white cabs lined up. Instead of going to the first cab of the line, Cecile ducked her head and searched for every cab. It was at the 4th cab that she bent down and rapped against the window. The driver, wearing a black beret, leaned over, nodded, unlocked the front door, and said something like Zila, which I guess was short for Cecile, in a colored Oakland way. Cecile opened the back door. Come on, I asked. Can we put our bags in the... Girl, will you get in this car? Vanetta and Fern stiffened. Big Ma could be hard. Papa didn't play around, but no one talked to me like that. It was just as Big Ma had said. We were in a boiling pot of trouble cooking. Still, there was no time to soothe my pride. I had to make everything all right for Vanetta and Fern, so they'd fall in line. I got the first with my bag, pulling Fern with me while she held onto Miss Patty Cake, and then Vanetta got in the cab. Cecile and the cab driver lit up cigarettes as we drove on. At least Papa didn't smoke in his viceroys in the Wildcat. Vanetta coughed and Fern looked green. I didn't bother and asked what I could and could not do. I cranked down my window to let air in. We were quiet, riding along, gazing out the windows at Oakland and stealing looks at Cecile. Before I could get a thought going about Cecile or Oakland, the cab driver let us out, not too far from the airport. You live near the airport? Vanessa asked. Cecile didn't answer. She just said, come on. As we walked, she hid deeper into her hat and shades, like she didn't want anyone to see her with us. She was ashamed. She had 3 girls she left behind, had to explain who these girls were. Yours? Why don't they live with you? Don't expect no pity from us. We were asked the same questions in Brooklyn. Where's your mother? Why don't she live with you? Is it true she died? Cecile placed Fern's suitcase on the bench on the bus stop and sat down. Why are we taking the bus? Vanetta asked. Why didn't the cab take us? I shushed Vanetta just to keep Cecile from saying something mean. By my Timex, the bus came in 4 minutes. Cecile made us get on first and said, go all the way back to the back and sit down. When we found seats, Cecile was still with the bus driver, arguing with him. 10 and under ride for free, she said. Now give me 4 transfers. I had been in line for a good while, standing tall, but I said to Vanetta and Fern, if anyone asks, I'm 10. Vanetta folded her arms. Well, I'm still 9. I'm not going back to 8. Fern said, I'm saying 7. I hushed them both down. A lot of good it did if the bus driver heard us getting our ages straight. Tell the truth. It was Cecile I worried about, not the driver. We didn't have to stay with the bus driver for the next 28 days. We had to stay with Cecile. Okay. So there's a lot going on in their lives at that point. And so I just wanted you to think about it, like going to a person's home that she might be your mother, but you know nothing about. How do you think Vanetta and Fern are feeling right now? I want you to take out your Greek and Latin. And let me see. Okay, so, and there's no new reflection questions. It's the same ones. If you want to add a little bit more detail, that would be great. It says, how is it different from your relationship? And then the rest is going to be in the next chapter over. So right now you should be done with these on your reflection questions. Okay, so we went over Greek and Latin yesterday, some Greek and Latin. And so we went by, do, and ambi, amphi, and they mean 2 and 2. Bi and duo both mean 2. And then amphi and ambi mean both.
Am I going to have a problem, guys? I don't have it back for the Greek and Latin. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can pause it. Okay, guys. Found it. Okay, so we're going to go over Greek and Latin 12C and 12D, our favorite analogies. So the first one, it says, choose 2 words that best explain and define the bold root word. And I'm going to do 1 and 8. Actually, no. Let's go to the more difficult. Ambidextrous, which means you can use both hands to do writing. And so right away to the definitions, the words that I use to define ambidextrous are right there. So I'm going to circle that. And amphibian means that you can live both in water and land. So I'm going to circle amphibian. And I'm not too worried about these. I'm pretty sure you guys are, for the most part, pretty good at these. What our favorite things are analogies. And this is my favorite way to get our brain going. Because I think we do use a lot of our brain power to do these. So I wanted to think of them and actually work it, like actually think about it. So the first one is duplex and home. So duplex, if you don't remember what duplex is, get your definitions and it should be on there. Duplex is a building that is divided into 2 separate homes. So division of 2 separate homes and then a home. Okay. Skyscraper to building, home to park, 2 to houses, animal to elephant. And how I'm seeing this relationship is duplex is a type of home. And so I'm going to give you a little quick second. And the only one that has the relationship as one is a type of something is skyscraper to building. Right? Skyscraper is a type of building. Ambidextrous to both. Okay. Right to left, right to draw, bilingual to 2, and hands to feed. And how I'm seeing this is ambidextrous means you can write with both hands. So the relationship is that the word is to a definition. That's what I'm seeing it as. You might see it different. And the only one that has like the word and then the definition is C, bilingual to 2. I don't know if this is me, but this is getting easier. At the beginning, it was like, but I don't know. It might just be me. Biannual to twice. So again, word to definition. Monthly to weekly. Yearly to once. 3rd to 4th, and 2 to annual. Okay, so this is word to definition, word to definition. And I'm going to let you finish up this on your own. Okay. Okay, y'all. After you finish all that, if you have online resources, I want you to work on World War I and the Great Depression. Okay, guys, see you in a bit for math.